The breaking point. The sky burned the night they came. Flashes of searing light ripped through the heavens, each strike louder than thunder, each explosion scattering fire across the skyline of Earth's cities. In the capital, towers crumbled like sandcastles before the tide. People fled in all directions, their cries drowned by the rumble of collapsing stone and the shriek of alien warships. The invaders called themselves the Krail Dominion, an empire that had ruled the stars for centuries. To them, Earth was just another world to conquer, another resource to plunder. They didn't come with negotiations, only commands: submit or perish. Governments tried to resist. Fleets of human fighters rose to meet the Krail, but their weapons were like sticks against steel. Within days, Earth's defense satellites were torn from orbit. Airfields burned. Naval ships were dragged into the deep by orbital strikes. The world that once believed itself mighty now looked helpless before the firepower of the Dominion. The Krail wasted no time in proving who ruled now. Cities that defied them were leveled in hours. Millions died in firestorms unleashed from orbit. Survivors were rounded up, herded into makeshift camps under the watchful glare of alien soldiers. Humanity's leaders were executed in public, their deaths broadcast to every screen. The message was simple: you are broken. You belong to us. And for a moment, it seemed the aliens were right. Families huddled in silence, too terrified to resist. Streets emptied, their ruins patrolled by machines that scanned for signs of defiance. Even whispers of rebellion were silenced by swift executions. But not everyone bowed. In the smoldering ruins of Chicago, a man named Elias Carter stood over the rubble of what had once been his home. His hands were blistered from digging through debris, but the effort had been futile. His wife and daughter were gone, swallowed in the inferno of the invasion's first strike. Around him, others gathered. Men, women, even children, broken in body but not yet in spirit. They watched as the Krail patrols marched through the streets, their metallic voices echoing commands in a language not meant for human throats. One of the survivors whispered, "They'll kill us all if we fight." Elias looked at the alien banners strung across the ruins, at the machines enforcing silence, at the sky now darkened by enemy ships. His voice was hoarse, but it carried steel. "They think we'll break. They think this is the end of us." He clenched a fist, trembling not with fear but with rage. "But the end of us will be the end of them." Those words lit something inside the crowd. It wasn't hope, not yet. It was fire, raw, burning anger. The Krail believed they had crushed humanity's will. Instead, in the ruins of a broken city, the first ember of rebellion had been lit. Fire in the ashes. The Krail Dominion declared Earth pacified within weeks. Broadcasts blared across shattered cities, their translators rasping in broken human dialects. Humanity is conquered. Resistance is ended. Compliance ensures survival. But the broadcasts were lies. Beneath the rubble, resistance had begun. It started small, acts of desperation more than strategy. A supply transport exploded in the streets of Berlin, its alien guards torn apart by their own munitions. In the jungles of South America, entire patrols vanished, their weapons scavenged by unseen hands. Across Asia, transmission towers collapsed in the night, severing Krail control signals. The Dominion dismissed these as isolated disruptions. They believed Earth's people too scattered, too primitive, too broken to mount anything more. But they underestimated what desperation could forge. Elias Carter had become a ghost in the ruins of Chicago. By day he hid, watching Krail patrols mark survivors for forced labor. By night he moved, carrying messages, smuggling food, guiding others through the underground tunnels that threaded beneath the city. His grief had calcified into resolve. One evening, in a damp cellar lit only by a burning oil drum, Elias stood before a dozen survivors. Some were engineers, others medics, a few simply civilians who had nothing left to lose. He placed a salvaged alien rifle on the table. "They call us conquered," Elias said. "But I say we've only just begun to fight. They think they broke us. Let's show them they've only armed us." A murmur spread through the room. A young woman named Sano, a university student before the invasion, leaned forward. You want us to attack them directly. With this, she tapped the rifle, scorched but functional. With whatever we have, Elias replied. Knives, stones, fire. Their weapons are strong, but their arrogance is stronger. They don't see us as dangerous. That's our advantage. The group agreed, not because they believed in victory, but because there was no other choice. Death waiting in silence was worse than death in defiance. Days later, their first strike came. A Krail convoy rolled through the ruins, carrying fuel cells bound for their orbital base. Elias and his small band waited in the shadows. When the lead vehicle crossed a makeshift barricade of rubble, a hidden charge detonated. The blast ripped through the transport, sending fire into the night. The ambush was chaos, human gunfire mixed with stolen alien plasma. Some fighters fell, but the survivors pressed hard, seizing weapons from fallen Krail. Within minutes, the convoy was destroyed, its cargo scattered and burning. News spread like wildfire. In every camp, every shattered city, whispers carried the same truth. Humans fought back, and won. The Krail commanders were furious. Patrols doubled, punishments grew harsher, but fear had already shifted. It was no longer only the humans who feared. Somewhere in the ashes of a ruined planet, the impossible had begun. Humanity had drawn blood. The turning tide. The Dominion called them terrorists. Humanity called them freedom fighters. In every occupied city, new attacks sparked. Ambushes in alleys, sabotage in factories, bombs planted beneath patrol routes. What began as scattered uprisings now linked into something larger. Messages traveled by couriers, encrypted signals, even carved symbols left on walls. For the first time since the invasion, humanity was not just surviving. They were organizing. Elias Carter's cell was no longer a handful of desperate survivors. It was now a network stretching across continents. Salvaged alien rifles had become common in their ranks. Mechanics turned wreckage into makeshift armored trucks. Hackers broke into Krail communication lines, feeding false orders that sent patrols chasing shadows while real strikes cut deeper. But the greatest shift came when the Resistance captured a Krail scout ship. It happened in the deserts of Nevada, where a squad of fighters brought down the vessel with jury-rigged explosives. When Elias arrived, he found engineers already tearing into the alien machine. Its hull was breached, its system sparking, but it was intact enough to study. For days, the Resistance worked tirelessly. Human engineers and scientists reverse-engineered the tech, fusing it with human ingenuity. What they lacked in polish, they made up for in creativity. A plasma rifle stripped from the ship was rebuilt with a car battery. A damaged drone was reprogrammed to scout enemy patrols. Every piece we take, Sanao said one night, her face lit by the glow of alien circuitry, is one more step toward making their strength our strength. And she was right. The Krail began to notice the change. Their soldiers marched warily now, no longer arrogant. Convoys were guarded like fortresses. Commanders issued new warnings. Humans had adapted too quickly. The rebellion's message spread beyond Earth. Broadcasts hacked into Dominion channels carried Elias's words across the stars. They thought we'd break. Instead, we are uniting. Every blow they strike only feeds the fire. And we are not alone. Any who suffer under their chains, rise with us. Across the galaxy, slaves of the Dominion listened. And in distant worlds, whispers of revolt stirred. But Earth itself was far from safe. The Dominion, humiliated, launched brutal countermeasures. Entire neighborhoods were vaporized from orbit. Survivors were executed en masse to frighten others into silence. Yet, instead of breaking, humanity grew bolder. In one daring strike, Elias led a team into a Dominion fuel depot near New York. Using stolen codes, they infiltrated the facility and overloaded its reactors. The explosion lit the night like a second sun, shattering Dominion supply lines for weeks. For the first time, Dominion commanders admitted privately what they would never say aloud. Humanity was not on the edge of extinction. Humanity was advancing, and the tide of war had begun to turn. We became their end. The Krail Dominion had underestimated humanity from the beginning. Now, With their fleets stretched thin and uprisings erupting across their empire, they faced the truth they had tried to deny. Earth was no longer a conquered world. It was the spark of their undoing. Elias Carter stood in the command chamber of the captured scout ship, now rebuilt into a human warship patched together with steel, salvaged wiring, and sheer defiance. Around him, fighters checked weapons and engineers monitored glowing alien consoles. Beyond the viewport, a Dominion fleet hung in orbit above Earth, preparing to unleash another wave of annihilation. "This is it," Elias said, his voice steady. "They wanted to break us. Tonight, we show them what happens when they fail." The plan was desperate. Humanity had always fought from desperation, but it was bold. Resistance cells across the planet had coordinated their strikes. As the Dominion prepared for orbital bombardment, hidden batteries of salvaged plasma cannons roared to life from city ruins, tearing into enemy cruisers. At the same time, Elias's ship led a swarm of human-modified shuttles, diving straight into the heart of the fleet. The battle was chaos. Alien firestorms lanced through the void, vaporizing dozens of human craft, but others broke through. Makeshift EMP charges detonated against Dominion hulls. Reprogrammed drones swarmed command ships, hacking their systems and turning them against their own. What humanity lacked in numbers, they made up for in fury. On the ground, rebellion surged. Camps once used to cage survivors rose in revolt, their prisoners overwhelming alien guards. From Asia to Africa, from the Americas to Europe, humanity fought not just for survival, but for vengeance. Elias's ship pierced the shield of the Dominion flagship. Fire ripped through the corridors as his strike team stormed inside. Plasma bolts screamed past, but the humans pressed on, every step fueled by memories of burned cities and murdered families. At the heart of the vessel, Elias stood face to face with the Krail High Commander. The alien's voice dripped contempt. "You are fragile. You are meant to bow." Elias raised his weapon, his voice steady as stone. "Fragile things don't burn empires." The final shot echoed. Minutes later, the Dominion flagship erupted in a chain of explosions, visible across half the planet. Without its command, the fleet faltered, then broke. One by one, human ships and ground batteries shredded what remained. By dawn, the sky above Earth was clay. Humanity had done the impossible. The Dominion's might had been shattered, its empire unraveling as enslaved worlds rose in rebellion. On the steps of a ruined city, Elias addressed the survivors and the galaxy beyond. "They thought we'd break. They thought fear would end us. But every blow only made us stronger. We are humanity, and we are the end of tyrants." The crowd roared, not with relief, but with power. For Earth was no longer prey. Earth was a fire that could never again be extinguished.